This drawing was never meant for gods or kings. It was made by an Egyptian worker in Thebes, a man who painted noble tombs by day and sketched his real thoughts in secret. Ancient Egyptians were far more open about sex than we imagine. Love, desire, and intimacy were normal parts of life, not sins. Has paid sex existed? Was it hidden? Was it illegal? Prostitutes appeared in texts, jokes, and everyday records. Were they treated as workers or outcasts? This sketch isn't pornography, it's honesty. A moment drawn by someone who lived outside royal perfection. Ancient Egypt wasn't sexually secretive, it was human.
Ancient Egypt is often described as sexually open and liberated, but was sex work really part of that world? Unlike Greece or Rome, Egypt left no clear word for prostitution, no official term at all. That single absence has puzzled historians for over a century, and it reshapes how we read Egyptian society. Art and love poetry show intimacy without shame, and daily life scenes treat romance as ordinary. So early scholars assumed sex work must have been common, hidden in plain sight. It seemed obvious. But an intimate image doesn't automatically mean a commercial one. Desire isn't the same as a transaction. To find the truth, we follow the evidence, not the assumption, and read between the lines. In older studies, many women tagged as prostitutes were something else entirely. They were entertainers, musicians and dancers hired for festivals and banquets. Others were servants in private homes, doing everyday work, cooking, pouring beer, keeping guests comfortable. And some appear in temple settings, where performance and ritual blended in public courtyards. Later translators saw flirtation and assumed payment, but the Egyptian titles point to jobs, not sex. The words we actually see are for singers, dancers, and attendants, paid for their skills, not defined by sex. Still, the lack of a label doesn't mean it never happened. It may have existed quietly, in forms we don't recognize. Here's the twist. No official label doesn't mean the practice never existed. It likely did, just in private, informal ways that left almost no trace. Instead of regulated brothels, think unwritten rules, whispers, and personal arrangements. We find no Egyptian laws punishing prostitution, no court records defining it as a crime. Religious texts don't condemn it either, and moral sermons stay surprisingly quiet. And there's no clear stigma recorded for consensual relationships, suggesting any sex work stayed discreet and unmarked. That silence suggests it wasn't treated as scandal, just another private exchange if it happened at all. So what we're seeing is an absence of paperwork, not an absence of people. Why this matters is simple. Egypt didn't categorize people the way we do today. When we force modern labels like sex work onto the past, we can misread jobs, status, and even law. What looks shocking to us may have been ordinary, or not worth naming at all, to Egyptians themselves. Their world ran on different rules: reputation, family ties, and quiet agreements, not public categories. Egyptian records tracked taxes and titles, yet private life often went unreported. So the key question isn't, did it exist, but why wasn't it named? And this wasn't the only profession historians misunderstood. Ancient Egypt hid many truths, quietly, in plain sight.
Ancient Egypt left love poems, dirty jokes, and even erotic sketches on papyrus. But what do those sources really tell us about sex, and paid sex, in Egyptian society? Unlike many ancient cultures, Egyptians could speak openly about intimacy. Sex was linked to life, creation and fertility, not automatically shameful. That openness survives in a few rare, surprising documents. A famous New Kingdom erotic papyrus shows exaggerated, humorous scenes. Most scholars read it as satire, fantasy, or private entertainment, not a how-to manual. And it was likely viewed in private, perhaps by elites. But these drawings don't prove widespread prostitution or a state-run sex trade. They show imagination, humor, and desire, not a regulated profession. Ancient Egyptians also didn't label intimacy the way we do today. Part of the problem is vocabulary. Egyptian sources rarely label someone a prostitute in the modern sense. Instead, we get hints, nicknames, jokes, or scenes that imply exchange without describing a formal job. Evidence for informal paid sex is limited but suggestive, especially around big festivals, among traveling workers, and in border towns and ports. Still, we don't find laws, brothels, or official records that regulate it. So erotic papyri reveal more than sex, a culture comfortable with bodies, jokes, and desire. Ancient Egypt didn't hide sexuality, it simply didn't define it in modern terms.
Let's summarize the facts.
Fact 1. Translation labels mislead. One term can mean entertainer, not prostitute. So, scholars check context. Who's speaking, where, and what's exchanged, across lots of papyri and ostraca. Fact 2. Some clues point to festivals and beer halls, where gifts and flirting could slide into paid intimacy.
Fact 3.
Deir el-Medina ostraca record workers' gossip and disputes, everyday voices, not royal morality. Bottom line, there wasn't one system. Status and networks shaped whether exchanges were negotiated or exploitative. Fact 4. Payment often looked like gifts, bread, beer, linen, perfume, not cash. So the evidence can hide in plain sight. Ration lists, thank you notes, and promises of food or beer. Fact 5. Status varied. Some were singers and dancers, professional entertainers with patrons and respect. Others faced pressure. Debt and power imbalances could make an exchange exploitative. Networks mattered. Fact 6. Sacred prostitution in temples is likely overblown. Most scholars read the imagery as ritual, not proof of paid sex. Fact 7. Trade routes mattered. In port towns, sailors and merchants brought demand and new social mixes. Fact 8. Stigma, yes, but clear legal bans are rare. Evidence looks like reputation and local control, not a blanket prohibition. Fact 9. Risk was real, debt and violence. Protection often came from patrons, kin, and neighborhood networks. What's solid? Labels are slippery. Payment was usually goods, and arrangements varied. What's debated? How common it was.
One more lens on all this: morality. In the Book of the Dead, people declared they lived in balance with Ma'at, truth, order, and right conduct. These are the negative confessions, a checklist of wrongs you claim you didn't do. It's less about private desire, more about being fit to belong in a well-ordered society. One line stands out: I have not committed adultery. In an economy of households, inheritance, and reputation, sexual conduct could be framed as a social responsibility, not just a personal choice. So when we talk about status, gossip, and labels, remember, people judged behavior through community eyes. What mattered wasn't a modern category, it was whether you were seen as keeping ma'at. That's why sources can sound moralizing even when they're describing messy reality. Ideals and lived life don't match neatly, especially when power, debt, or coercion shape choices.